everyone. Welcome back to the Work Culture Podcast. Thanks for tuning in today. Today, we have a special guest. This is Shirell Rivers, and she's the Director of Onboarding at Athena Health, focused on women's health. Shirell, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Why don't you give us just a high level, who are you and how did you get to where you are, which, if I'm looking correctly, is almost 10 years at Athena?
Right. So I started out in the military. I started my career in the military. I was what you would call an independent duty corpsman, and then I went into nursing. And so all my life I wanted to be in healthcare. That was my thing. I had a sixth grade teacher who was a Navy lawyer. He was a JAG officer. And he came to school in this beautiful white uniform. And I went home and said, I want to go to the Navy. my, my parents were like, what are you talking about?
Like, you
So
had
I
to see the
convinced
suit, Mom and Dad. It was
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, it was the most beautiful thing. And so he knew that I wanted to get into healthcare and I always wanted to be a nurse. So he took, and then you could take kids places, right? You know, it wasn't this phenomenon where you had to get all this permission. And he took us to a cancer research center, Hutchinson's Cancer Research Center in Seattle, Washington. And we used to go every month there. And that's when I learned about healthcare and the compassion and the empathy behind it. So that's what I went to school for. I wanted to be that person. So I went to school on a ROTC scholarship, and that's how I ended up going to the Navy. And I spent about 10 years in the Navy, and I got injured really bad and ended up coming out of the Navy and went into the civilian life and thought that I wanted to do that, but realized that healthcare was very different from military healthcare. You know, we had everything. We had the supplies we needed. We had the people that we needed. And I noticed that there was a huge disparity in nurse to patient ratio, very different than what we had. And I didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy it. And so I went back and got an MBA and said, I want to be on the administrative side of healthcare. And that's kind of where my path started. And I just did tons of things through that. And then I had a mentor that told me, hey, you know, this thing called healthcare IT is going to take off. You should really look into getting into something like that. And I was like, healthcare IT, what is that? I don't know what that is. And ended up doing some work in healthcare IT, doing more type of consulting work with a company called Altir. And then from there, I worked with this physician, and he was from Saudi Arabia, and I spent a year in Saudi Arabia. He asked me to come there after he sold his practice, and I helped do like some revenue cycle management, rebuild a hospital coding system for them. And I came back and I ended up falling into a company called Allscripts and loved working with physicians and helping them be more efficient in electronic medical records. And that's when the Affordable Care Act came out. And it was this huge thing of getting all these physicians on electronic medical records and practice management systems. And I really love that work. Spent about 7 years there and then went to General Electric. And that's how I, ran the project management office there, really worked with Athena. It was called IDX then. And then we merged with Athena Health. And so that's how I've kind of ended up at Athena Health. We became one company. A part of the healthcare portion was merged with Athena Health. And I still have that huge desire to make sure that physicians are productive, efficient, and get to deliver the best healthcare that they can to patients. And that's what we do. We have this huge ecosystem, and we want to make life easier for providers.
Wow, very cool. And what is your primary role? Like, what are you doing most day in, day out?
So we are now having a huge focus on specialties, and there are certain specialties that we have broken out from our implementation teams. And I have women's health. So my focus is on women's health and growing that specialty and making sure that we have the expertise to work with providers that are in the women's health space. So as we onboard them onto our system, they are getting those subject matter experts to help them on board, and that's subspecialties in women's health as well. And we have a whole team now that focuses on women's health, such as a behavioral health, urgent care. We have all these in ortho. There's teams that are divided up now that are specific to those specialties so that those providers get the best of us.
Okay, gotcha. And we'll get into the hot seat question in a second, but um, how much of your role is like in the doing, and how much is in leadership for
A
what
lot of
you're where you're at right
leadership.
now? Yeah.
I have a team of 13 right now.
Okay.
And I'm grow and develop, and it's a lot of leadership because we recently went through a huge org change, and it's actually an org change that is better for our customers. And leading a team through that change and having them think differently, do differently, and you've been doing things the same way for a very long time, and
Yeah, it's
now you've
tough.
got to think totally different, and helping them understand that this change is going to be better for us in the long run. It's not great right now. You may not feel like it's great, but it is going to be great in the end.
Yeah. Now I do have your human cheat sheet because you took that the psychometric assessment, and I see that you are someone who handles change and even implements change pretty easily as far as your hardwiring. You also are able to deal with and reel with emotions more efficiently and quickly than probably a lot of people. I'm curious, from the people you're leading, how much did you see they were just total opposite of you, where like they were resisting change and they were just like feeling a way about it, you know, to like that nth degree.
Very different than me. I think that's been my life a lot, right? A lot. I think the military taught me how to deal with change in a way that was good for me. That was a good spot for me to be in the military because it was constant change, and you had to learn how to deal with it in a moment's notice, right? That we're not going to do this, we're going to do that. So with my team, what I've tried to do is really show them what's in it for them. Like, how is this going to benefit you in the long run? And being empathetic leader, understanding that this is tough for them. You don't always see things my way. I have to live in your shoes, and I've also rolled my sleeves up, right? I got to roll my
Mm.
sleeves up and jump in and do what you're doing.
Yeah,
If that means I've got to hop on a call with you with the customer and walk through the new process with them, I have to do that. And I've been doing that. I haven't
yeah, I
been
bet.
doing project management in a long, long time, but I have been hopping on calls with employees of mine because it's a new process
Yep.
and they haven't been super secure with it yet, but they're getting there. So that means call it, you ping me if I got to move something on my calendar to be on that call with you, I'm going to do that.
Yeah, wow, that's very cool. So sounds like things are going well in leadership right now. But here's that hot seat question, right? We ask every guest, what is a mistake that you have made in leadership that you'll never forget?
I think assuming that everybody sees things through my lens, that
Mm,
has been a mistake that I made in the past that I've learned to stop and not assume just because I see it this way, everyone's going to see it. I have to learn to meet people where they're at. And that was a hard lesson.
yeah, it's a powerful one though, right? Once you learn it, it's that very much increases your empathy capacity because you're able to take perspectives in a new way.
Right. And it was tough. That was a lesson that took me through the ringer, but you've got to learn to meet people where they're at.
Yeah. Everyone has different motivations, drives, needs, and I've learned the same lesson through many mistakes. So I appreciate that. One of the, in fact, I was training a new client this morning, and one of the things we talked about was, uh, I had some like really high, um, want to be in charge type people on the call, and an eye opener for them, which was the same for me. Like, hey, like literally over half the population prefers to be given instruction. Like, tell them what to do. They want that, and they're just going, "What? No, nobody wants to be told what to do." And I'm like, well, not in a way that takes away their autonomy, but in a way that is clear instruction and direction. Yeah, Yep, that your team needs that from you. And like, oh my gosh, what a revelation.
Right.
So as you've done that, as you've learned to take their perspective, people see the world differently than you do. What are some of the top lessons you've learned, particularly as it pertains to leadership and creating a culture in Athena?
Well, I can tell you when I switched from the GE side to the Athena side, I inherited a team that didn't have a lot of trust.
Mm,
And for me, I had to, one of the things that I learned right off the bat was whatever I said I was going to do, I had to do. There wasn't any room for me to make a mistake and not do what I said I was going to do.
yeah.
There just was not any room for that. And then I had to spend that one-on-one time with each individual and
How
really,
long
huh?
how long had that team kind of been in place with the eroded trust when you kind of came in?
Probably about a year and a half.
Okay.
So I came in from another product line into their product line. I didn't know the product as well. I had to learn it. So they knew it better than I did. They had
Yeah.
had many managers before me. I think I was their third manager in a year and a half.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's hard.
So they were like, okay, here comes another one. She won't be here long. There'll be somebody. We'll
Right.
just deal with her while she's here. So I had to, one of the first things I did was take project reviews out of their one-on-ones. Um, I stopped doing that. I made that as a team thing. Used their one-on-ones to talk about them, their growth and development goals, and what do they want to do.
Yeah.
I just took project reviews totally out of that, and I created a project review once a month, once a week. So that's when we talked about projects and no longer in their one-on-ones. And then set goals, and I actually set expectations too
Mhm.
of what I had. Like, what are my, like, how do I manage? How do you want to be managed? How do you like to be communicated with? How do I like to be communicated with? And I think that was good from the very beginning. So they understood what kind of manager I was. And then I understood how they wanted to be managed.
Yeah. Hold on. Wait. So you asked them how they wanted to be managed instead of just having a one size fits all?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. No, that I'm very glad you did. It's one of those simple and yet not as common as it should be kinds of mentalities. That was probably a really strong move for building that trust that had been eroded in the team.
Well, but nobody's the same, right? And
Yeah.
some, like you said, like some people want to be told what to do, some don't.
Hmm.
Right?
Yep.
So I have to meet them where they're at, and everybody is different. But then I also have a set of expectations too, right? So you have to meet my expectations, but I also have to be able to meet you where you're at.
Yeah.
And some people don't want to meet every other week or every week. Maybe somebody only wants to meet every other week. So that's when our one-on-ones are. But I did ask them, like, how do you like to be managed? How do you like to be spoken? What's your best communication tool? Do you want to, like, you like Teams chat? Do you like email? How do we communicate? Things like that. And then I noticed slowly, and then having their back, because when you're in onboarding, you're in between, you're the meat between the sandwich, right? You're between sales and the customer success manager.
Hmm.
So you tend to get a lot of the stuff. You're the place where all the bad lands sometimes. And so, really being there to support them was huge. Like, okay, when something happens, let's get all sides of the story and let's all come together and try to resolve it as a team instead of it's onboarding.
Hmm.
And that was huge for them as well in building trust. Is like, hey, sales, let's get with sales and let's all sit on a call and find out what's the best way to solve this solution together. And let's all get on the phone with the customer together to show that we're a united front, not just
Yeah.
onboarding trying to solve it. And that was, I think, huge for them as well, is to know that I wasn't gonna not have their back. I have your back, but when we're wrong, and we're gonna own it.
How hard was that for them? I mean, admitting you're wrong to sales, ugh, nobody wants to do that, right?
No, no, we don't want to do that. But when we're wrong, but you know what? It built great relationships with sales.
Yeah.
It did. And then they trusted us more because they knew, okay, her team is going to own it when it's bad. And we're going to come with a solution to fix it when we did make a mistake.
Yeah, that
We're
does
not
go
going
a
to
long
run
way.
from it. We're not going to run from it. And they didn't like it at first, but then they started seeing the benefits of that.
Hmm. Yeah, it's really strong. What do you think was or I guess, was there a turning point where it was you're like you're setting this new foundation, you're trying to establish trust, communicate with them the way they are. Was there a point where they like you saw it shift from like, you're just another manager who will be gone in 6 months to, oh, hey, this might be something.
I can tell you probably, okay, I got them in Q1. And by the end of Q2, our metrics were higher than anybody else.
Wow, not even a half a year. Wow.
They were, our NPS scores started going through the roof. Our forecasting was better. We were doing more, we were having less go live pushes. We were meeting our ARI numbers. They didn't have to tell me. I saw it in the metrics because they
Right.
were willing to do whatever I asked. They worked so hard. And when I would share metrics with them, because they had never seen metrics before. So I would say, okay, this is our goal for the quarter. This is what we got to do. So every team meeting, we would show where we're at towards that goal. This is what we got to do, you guys. We can't have anything fall out of the quarter. And if we do, we got to bring something in. But they were working really hard and they were having fun doing that because they weren't even a team, right?
Yeah.
So we would do team building things. I did something, I don't know if you've ever heard like Snappy Gifts. It's
Mm.
a cool little platform where it's called Snappy, and I would do like competition type things, and you go on and you buy these little like Snappy, you can pick how much you want the gift to be, and they can go on and pick anything they want in that in that in that price range. And so I would do
Yeah,
that on
yeah.
my own. I would say, okay, we're going to have a competition this quarter, and this is what it is. Who brings in the most ARI? And I would do like a $50 Snappy gift, and then somebody would get that, and they love the fact that they could do these cool gifts, and then I didn't
Mhm.
have to pick it; they could pick it, and then they would come home. So
Right.
we did things like this, these little motivational things, and I tried to bring things in, and like we did a remote escape room thing one quarter.
Remote
Uh,
one.
yeah, it was kind of cool, because they were super competitive, and like we would do Family Feud, or like the last meeting of the quarter, we would do like a Family Feud or some kind of treasure hunt, or it was
Yeah,
things to try to bring them together to show that I was truly interested in them and like them, and let's try to be a team. And they really were high performers. They worked hard. And if I would ask them to take on an additional project, or I know your load is full, can you do? Yeah, sure, I'll do it.
that's great. I mean, so I mean, we're talking about aspects of culture here, trust building and perspective taking and going the extra mile and empathy, perspective, like seeing how people are wired and how they prefer to communicate. It sounds like you've had this micro culture within, I mean, Athena Health is not a small company, thousands and thousands of employees, right? So I'm curious, like, how does that fit into the grander scheme? I mean, if anything, it seems like there's at least a global culture that allows you to go and do your own thing, which is awesome. But like, what does that synergy look like between big global
Well,
culture and yours?
it aligns to our core values anyway, right? We have overall core values, and I'm just operating within those core values.
Okay.
It's just me as a manager. We all manage differently. No manager is, you can't be a cookie cutter manager, right? I think
Mhm.
all of us are all that manage have a different way of managing people, but we all operate within those core values of the company.
Yeah. I mean, that's not the normal situation that I hear in larger organizations, to be able to even have your own little app for snappy gifts, and things of that
Well, I
nature.
did that on my own. That wasn't something the company
Oh,
paid
okay.
for. I paid for that out of my pocket.
Wow. Okay. Well, now
Yeah,
that's
I
interesting.
paid for that out of my pocket. That wasn't something that the company. We have something called we had something called Fond. You could give Fond points, and then they could go and buy gift certificates or do whatever they want with that. And I did that as well. But the
Hmm.
snappy things were like for Employee Appreciation Day. I would go and spend like $20 a person and let them pick what they wanted. But that was something I did to show that I was interested in them because there was such little trust,
Yeah.
and they really liked that. And that was out of my pocket. The company didn't pay for that. So,
Okay. Wow. Well, props. Kudos to you on that one for sure.
or
Eh,
like
of-
one year, I think the first year that I had them at Christmas, I sent their spouses or their significant others notes saying how much I appreciated them and thank you for supporting them so they can do such a great job at work. And nobody had ever done that for them before. And I used to do that at a company before. So I said, I'm going to do that this year because this is the first time I've had them. And they were
yeah.
kind of amazed by that. They were like, you do that?
Yeah, that's not normal. I haven't heard of that one either. You're giving us some gold nuggets to our audience today, because there's some easy takeaways uh, that people probably haven't thought of before. I love that.
Yep, handwritten note, handwritten, not typed
I,
or emailed.
yeah, I did that as well at my last company as we were like just growing and growing and growing, um, and we just we got so big it was a half dozen. Well, it was every single day there was some handwritten note going out, and sometimes multiple a day. Um, you get that hand cramp, but and my almost illegible handwriting, but it worked. Like people felt really valued. I'd see pictures where people had like they got like their third note, in 2 years or something, and they would have it on their cubicle or something, and I
That's
thought that
cool.
was just so cool. Yeah, that goes a long way. It's that extra touch. It's like, hey, I do care about you. This isn't just words. It's not like you're not a metric. You
Yes,
you mean something
absolutely.
to me. Yeah, and that's, I mean, it's particularly important in a larger organization. It's easy to become a cog, in the system.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, sounds like you've done something really special there in your group. What are some challenges that you either are having or anticipate as the kind of landscape of work changes?
I think the challenges we have are, well, that I have is keeping people motivated. I
Mm,
think there's a lot going on outside of work that is stressful and creates anxiety.
yep.
And how do we support them, know that we're there for them in both places?
Mhm.
I think it bleeds over into work, and and people aren't always their full selves because of everything that's coming. It's
Yeah,
just overload. And even for
I agree.
myself, right? Even for
Yep.
myself, like how do I show up in a way that doesn't consume me?
Hmm.
Because there's so much in on a daily basis that is coming at us. And I think that's probably the biggest challenge that I face is like for my team, how do I stay in tune with them to know when they need to step away
Yeah.
and be okay? Like I'm okay with you hopping out and taking some time out of the office to go take that walk or go get that coffee or go see that friend.
Yep.
You're an adult, you can get your work done. I understand that. I don't need to know that you're stepping out for an hour or two. I'm not that kind of person. You don't need to tell me. You just need to tell me you're out the office. So if I'm looking for you, I know, hey, that
Right.
person's out. But being able to help them manage things that are outside that are affecting them as a whole person, I think is the biggest challenge right now.
I agree, and I think it's so important that you're giving people that space. I mean, that the current landscape in America is such that a news headline about
Yep.
some political whatever is enough to derail people, completely.
Yes.
And if a leader has this mentality of like just get over it, like it's just so detrimental. It erodes trust and really just destroys people's morale. So I think that you're spot on there with what the challenge is, and your response to it is really strong and very caring and compassionate.
Yeah, I think that's our, from a workplace perspective. I think if you as leaders can't recognize that it may not affect you,
Mhm.
but your employees are struggling
Yeah,
to come in every day, to show up and be good for customers, it could be draining for a lot of people.
yeah,
And I just think we have to be compassionate enough to say, hey, if somebody pings me on Teams and says, I got to step away, I don't need to know the details. I have to
right.
trust they're going to get their work done and I'm okay.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. It's a complete 180 difference from some of the old school mentality of, I own you from 9 to 5, and like get over it and pull up your bootstrap, whatever. I think that that's really special. Any like golden nuggets that we've maybe missed before we transition to kind of the end portion?
I can tell you, for me, a golden nugget is, you may not believe this, but I'm 54. Right?
You are correct in your assumption.
I'm 54. And for me, the biggest thing for me has been to appreciate the younger generation that's coming into the workforce. It's really, I know that we struggle with their wanting to have everything like instantaneous and not wanting to work for what they want. They just want to have it, right? But
Yeah.
I have been fortunate or unfortunate, I don't know how you want to look at it, fortunate to have a lot of youngsters on my team. And I think they bring a very unique perspective to work. I think we should appreciate them and we should give them the opportunities to lead with the
Yeah,
right direction.
I
I think
agree.
you have to slow them down a little bit to understand the big picture, not just the tunnel vision that they have, but
Okay.
to give them the opportunity to see the wisdom that you have for the big picture. But we have to give them opportunities to be a part of the discussions. And I was at a leadership conference last week for women, and one of the ladies said, it's not just enough to have a seat at the table because you don't want to be the lunch.
Words of wisdom,
And I thought about that and I was like, she's right. You don't want to be the lunch. You want to
right?
have the seat at the table.
No doubt.
So
I
that's my
love
new
that.
nugget right now.
That's a great golden nugget. Not a nugget that you would eat, but yes, so good. All right. Well, Shirelle, do you have any shameless plugs that you want to throw out there?
Um,
Uh,
I I think I guess one of my shameless plugs is invest in yourself and don't waste your talents on don't feel your talents are only for work.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
what I would
Pursue
say.
passions outside of it. Lean
Yep.
into your strengths. Love that. All right. And if people want to connect with you, what's the best way to find you?
On LinkedIn.
Okay. And you're pretty easy to find actually on
Yep.
LinkedIn because
Yeah, there's
Shirelle,
not too many Shirelles out there.
yeah, especially Shirell,
Yep,
Shirelle
there's
Rivers.
only a few of us. There's another one that, and she's actually, I know her too.
Oh, nice.
There's very few of us that have that spelling, and then it's
Yep.
River.
Yep.
Yep.
Great. All right. Well, we're going to end off with our quick fire. It's just a this or a that. So I'll say two things, and you just pick which one you would choose or prefer, or it describes you. Okay.
Hmm.
So, uh, night owl or morning person?
Morning.
Morning person. Okay. Hard copy book or audio book?
Audiobook.
All right. Well, then follow up on that. Full audiobook or bite-sized podcast?
Both.
Both. That's cheating. Ah, fine. Uh, Delivery or dine in?
Dine in.
Okay. Uh, Pineapple on your pizza or you're a normal person?
I'm a normal person.
I apologize to everyone who wants to send me a nasty email now. Last one, sunrise or sunset?
Sunrise.
Ooh, okay. Awesome. Well, this has been really, really fun and enlightening. I appreciate all of the words of wisdom, the golden nugget, all of the aspects of culture that you are implementing really powerfully within your organization, and all the advice that we can take away from it. This has been awesome, Sherelle. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me. This was fun.
Yeah, good. Uh, well, listeners, audience, y'all, thanks for tuning in. This has been another episode of the Work Cultured Podcast with Shirell Rivers, and we will see y'all next time. Bye bye.
Bye.